Hello, how's it going? Well, my thing just crashed there, but I'm trying to get smart and do some opening credits. And and also having some trouble. I've got Barry Nicol. Hello there, folks, by the way. Hello. I've got Barry Nicol being a guest. He's came on and chatted to me before, and he's actually been on my live stream before. So I assumed he was going to log in, no problem at all. But it would appear he's having some difficulties logging in. So I guess I'll just ramble for a little while. What can we start with? Let me see. How are you all doing it anyway? Is there anyone watching this? That's the next question. Don't seem to be getting comments up. Technical difficulties tonight, yeah? Technical difficulties. It was all going so well the past couple of nights. And I've got my Emma mug as well. So hopefully we'll be back in business shortly. All right, Mo, how's it going? Did you have the job interview, Mo? How did that go? Let us know. I'm just trying to chat to Barry at the same time here to see if he can get in. And he's having problems. So, I don't know what's going on. So that's a bit of a bummer because I was basically letting Barry go on the show tonight. I guess we should have tested it before now. Are we actually streaming? I'm actually on Billy Watson TV. Alright. So it looks like I'm still active. Barry, let me see. Barry, are you listening to me? Let's see. Just chatting to Barry here. He can't get in. So anyway, Mo's here. And Barry's here, so Barry, you're here as well. I don't know what's going on, mate. We should have tried it before, I guess, yeah? So, I guess we'll have to cancel that one and do it another night then. Because I just refreshed the screen and everything, so... Well, I guess we're goosed. I'll just double check you've got the right link, but it's the same one as I gave to you before. What I'll do is we'll try again. I will refresh my screen and see if that can get you back on again. But I don't think that's a good idea, actually. We'll have to try again another night, Barry. Aye. So, sorry about that, folks. I guess I'm just going to have to waffle. Aye. Because otherwise me and Barry will be having a conversation like this. Trying to get this thing all sorted out. Now I'm trying to get rid of this other thing. Oh, technology, isn't it wonderful? It's a pretty good system, this, actually, but right now there's some gremlins, you could say, gremlins. So yeah, I'm not like that. During an argument, I could easily write tons of stuff, you know, but I prefer talking to people. I'm not very good at texting. I've got that much shit going on in my brain these days. Anytime anyone posts something, I want to reply like that, you know, and basically, you know, have a counter argument. But anytime I post something on the old fascist book, then it usually ends up basically with the conversation ending. So I just gave up after a while. Here's a picture of Barry, who should be on the show right now. So you got your tinfoil hat on there, Barry, yeah? I've still to order mine up. It looks a bit tinfoilish, I'm guessing that's what it is. So, aye. What am I going to talk about? Oh, I was all just saying to myself, it'll be a nice chilled show tonight. I don't need to waffle for an hour or so. It looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. As we're on the subject of Barry, let's play one of his poems, shall we? Barry, this is what we'll do. I'll play some stuff. And, oh, he's coming. He's coming through. Oh my goodness. It looks like we've got him. Technology. We can do it. Let me just find him. Ah, no, that was his video. Where the hell is he? Bear with us, folks. Smooth as the BBC. Right, we're getting closer. Where is he? Oh no, he's not there. Ah, there he is.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Aye,
David.
right. Aye, no bad.
Good.
You made it. You made it.
Aye, finally. Just a bit of a technical glitch there that my kind wife sorted out for me. So,
All right.
all good.
That's good. Well, anyway, good to be here because I was, flapping a bit as to what I was going to talk about tonight. So,
I wouldn't leave you in the lurch, mate.
I believe you've. Oh fucking hell! Where did it go? You said you wouldn't leave me in the lurch. It just disappeared. Where are you?
Oh, no. Didn't touch it. Juliet, in your hand.
Let me see if I can find you again. I maybe shut you down by accident. You still hanging about here somewhere? No, you're gone. Hello? Barry's gone. Oh yes, folks. He's obviously the gremlins are, not too keen on getting him on. Let's say, fucking hell, what the hell's happening? Right. Anyway, Mo, had a work colleague trying to convince me COVID was real. I know. It ended with don't submit to control or the biggest hoax going. Yep, it's hard when you're talking to these people. Oh, he's coming back in again. So basically, it wasn't my fault. It was Barry Nicol's fault. Try and stay on this time, Barry. Well, actually, maybe it might be my fault. It doesn't really matter. It's not about blame, is it? He looks like he's coming on. He's getting a 3-2-1, but I can't see his face. Where the fuck is he? He's disappeared again. Have you got any more of an audience? It's just Mo. So anyway, Mo. Yeah, I had people, you've seen in a couple of days maybe in my Instagram feed, people trying to convince you it's real. They've just got a clue, have they? It's so sad how uninformed people are. It's absolutely tragic. I'm going to play a Barry Nicol poem. Well, I'll try and get Barry on. Yeah? So let's do that. Here it goes.
This is called Something This Wicked This Way Comes. As we drift aimlessly into the future, not watching as we skip, evil minds construct machines, which means the end of you and me, as they hoist the black towers in the name of progression. There will be no time to care from the toughest being to the most delicate of flowers. And after all is said and done, I try to warn you of the game. They don't need us anymore to spin the system for their own needs. Those wearing tweed for hunting parties. They have robots to pull out the weeds. They have machines as slaves. As I said before, they don't need us anymore. Still, this may be our last chance to love one another, simply without fuss and drama, accepting all that is and will be. If we are eternal beings, what do we have to fear? We live, we die, we try again. We know the path of righteous zen. Together united, we will always win. So all that time, we wait in the shadows, watching closely at the evil minds, construct their intelligence of superior knowledge, looking down at us from above. They are few, but we are many. Wake up now to fight the enemy. For God's love is a battle worth the fight against his adversaries' enemies. Full armour on, sword held high. It's time to look into the devil's eye.
Okay. Here comes Barry. Aye, not bad. I'm bringing you on now. So I'll just put the poem there. And
Nice one, thanks.
Yeah. So folks, Barry gave me a poem. I made him a wee poem. If anyone out there needs some video stuff done, I've make videos for people. evideoagency.com. You can get in touch with me. So just to say, Mo's made a comment there about he was arguing with somebody who said, people get this one. I mentioned it the other night when people say the virus is real, and then they always come with, I know somebody that died from it, and it's just hard to kind of. People have this strong belief that the nurse is telling them something, so it must be true, but they're not dying from COVID. Anyway, Barry, we've got a couple of good feedbacks there from Stephen and Mo about your poem. How are you doing?
Oh,
What's happening with
guys. Cheers. Aye. Well, tonight I've been out for a cycle on my bike today to try and get some exercise because I'm putting a bit of beef on. But it's nice to be on here tonight, and thanks for welcoming me on. It's cool to be here.
That's cool. It's nice to have you on. And basically, I would like anybody else who feels like coming on, it's good that other people get to see and kind of feel your energy a bit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it helps then when you're talking in the chat, you know people a lot better. Because I was up in Perth the other day there and I met a few people, Lucy and stuff. And it's a lot different from just talking, obviously, yeah?
Absolutely. Human contact's important, you know?
Yeah.
It's, we thrive.
Hi. So, basically, you said you're thinking of some things to talk about tonight. Is there any particular area you want to start with?
Well, I was just going to tell you like a little bit about myself in the past. If you want to ask me some prompting questions, and I'll answer it. And then I'll try and maybe in the second part do something about how to look after yourself during these times.
Okay, well, that's quite a good way to take it because obviously your story does have elements of why you kind of ended up with PTSD and stuff that we'll get into, and then obviously the healing side comes after that. Yeah, so you did send me. You wrote an article about basically your life story and a quick synopsis of it, basically. Yeah, so let's start by your youth. Basically, was it Dunblane you grew up, and your mother and father?
I was born in Dufftown in the Highlands, and my dad was a manager of a distillery, Tormore, up there. And he moved to be the youngest manager in Scotland for distilleries at the age of 30 to become the manager of the Lefroy distillery in Islay. So I moved at the age of 2 years old and had a childhood running about an island going mad. Yeah. It was great, I know.
And I believe you were in the distillery quite a lot as well. Your
father... aye. I mean, I got to know the workers that well that they used to give me sandwiches and a cup of tea, you know.
Okay.
So, it was quite... We got up to a lot of mischief, put it that way.
Yeah, was that like when you're up to about age 10, 11, stuff like that? You're just running around the distillery?
Yeah, about age of 10, I think we moved to Dunblane.
Dunblane,
My dad had got a job in Glasgow and he was commuting there every day. So,
all right.
And he, at this point, he was a single parent, so we didn't see him much.
So you were basically saying you were kind of left to your own devices quite a lot.
Well, yeah, I had an older brother and sister, and they kind of, well, at that age, tried their best to, bring me up.
All right.
But at the age of 14, things happened within the family that split us all up, and my brother and sister and I had to go and find somewhere else to stay. I ended up with my grandmother down in Largs. So I spent my last of my academic years at the Largs Academy in the West Coast.
So this youth, it sounds like, your parents split up when you were younger, you were kind of left to your own devices, and then this other big family incident happened. Do you think that kind of, children very much need a kind of good, loving, supporting family, Do you think that affected you quite a lot at that young age? Did that make you kind of delinquent and kind of, angry, I guess, inside? Anything like that?
Well, there's a lot of frustrations at school. I didn't find this out until I actually went back to college and got tested. I had dyslexia at school, so my work was quite poor. I'd be up in front of classes, they'd be asking you to read from a book, and you'd be stammering and stuttering and not being able to read Tom, Dick and Harry, whatever it is, go up a hill. And all the class are laughing at you, and you're thinking inside, why are they laughing at me? Because you're stuttering. Stammering over the words because you can't actually focus on the words. And that led to, at the time, dyslexia I was just getting found out about within the school system. So they used to drag me out the classes and put me in and do tests on me to see, we'll test this monkey to see if he can do this. And they found out that my cognitive and all that sort of stuff was messed up. And I think that was really down to trauma from a lot of things that happened to me in my childhood. So
you think the dyslexia was actually caused by that stuff then? It's not.
Well, I think it's got part of it. I think if you've got a racing mind at a young age, it's really difficult to focus on anything, and never mind schoolwork. If you're worrying about things that are happening back home and you're at school, your mind's not at school. You just want to be out there playing, and I don't want to be here doing numbers that I can't see or letters I can't figure out. So it was it was then I found out I was quite good at art, so I had a passion for it, and I had a passion for sports. And I suppose my dad, doing his best, it was his idea that I actually should join the army at the age of 15. He signed me up, and by the age of 16, I was in junior leaders.
And was this because like your dad found a new girlfriend basically and wanted a shot of you?
I'll try and be nice to my dad. Yes.
Get some peace to get some shagging in here.
Oh, if you heard that, he's a Christian, so.
All right, okay. That's just how I feel. I've got my son here and I've got a squeaky bed, you know.
You should find a pillow behind the headboard, mate.
That's exactly I actually got a new bed thinking it was going to improve, but it's squeakier than the previous bed. So anyway, we'll not go into that one.
WD-40.
That's what's needed, So basically, you said your grandmother as well. She was an alcoholic, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. She would
like
hide bottles.
The tea with the wee brandy in it, you know.
Oh, bottles of martini stashed everywhere that she probably forgot about, and we found, you know. So, or I found when I was living with her. It wasn't easy. So basically, she was quite. She had mental health problems, I think, from the Second World War, and a lot of other things that went on with her in her childhood. So, I think trauma's passed on from generation to generation, and I think we're still living in the echo of these two great wars that were happened before. We're still getting our heads around that, I think.
Well, I actually said a few times, I think even like the Scottish and Irish people, how we lost their language and stuff like that, and we all kind of became big drinkers and stuff. I think we've still got a lot of trauma even from then, you know.
Well,
not to mention,
there's an interesting story about Scottish people drinking. I think a lot of Irish navvies and that used to come over to dig the Caledonian Canal between Inverness and Corpach, and they were drinking too much whiskey, so they weren't getting much work done because they were too fucked up, right? So they actually built them a brewery so they would drink beer so they could do their work the next day.
All right, okay, fair dues.
So, so they could maximise the work capacity of their navvies. They built them a brewery to get them off the whiskey.
So when it quite as pissed.
Aye. Well, they were getting more productive, I think. Better robots, you know.
Well, yep. So basically now, you're saying you got to the point where you got put in, what was it, like a boys' army kind of division?
Well, it was called Junior Leaders Regiment. It was they don't have it down there. It's for the Royal Armour Corps.
Okay.
So for the first year we had usually people doing 6 weeks, we do in a year, and pretty much every day was an assault course, weapons handling training, radio handling, learning different codes like backhoe. All these things aren't in use anymore. These were way back in the 80s. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was with dyslexia. I had a lot to get my head around, and that alone was causing me stress. Was the amount of work that they were putting me through, because it was just basically my arse never touched my elbow the whole year, you know. So it was just full on, totally manic, you know. What's going on? And then from there, I went to Catterick, where I learned to drive a chieftain tank at the age of 17. And from there, I was shipped out to Germany, to Fallenbostel. It's where they used to drop off the Jewish slaves and gas them at places like Belsen. So, quite.
But you hadn't actually signed up for the full army at this point.
As a boy soldier, you can't sign up until you're something like 17 3/4. So at the age of 16, I was a junior leader. And I had the rank of junior trooper. So it's like a year. In that year, you can get promoted to junior sergeant major or even junior regimental sergeant major. I stayed a trooper the whole year, and that was because of my learning difficulties.
Right.
So I was fantastic at sports and stuff, so good grades for that.
So you learned to drive the tank, and what made you actually sign up for the full army? Was it just a natural progression? You thought,
I had to go to. My dad dragged me along from Largs up to Port Glasgow, and they had a recruiting office there. And from there, my dad's going. They're going to me, right, here's an IQ test. And actually, I did quite well in the IQ test because I've been doing them like, you know, getting dragged out of the classes and doing them. So I got a good grade, and I had a choice between, I'm 15 years old, and I'm looking at the Royal Military Police, or I'm looking at driving tanks. I'll drive tanks because they look pretty cool. You know what I mean? That was the only reason I went for tanks. And when I got to like my regiment and that, I still hadn't a clue what I was doing. Like, just to
so then you signed up for the main army though.
Yeah, I had to get through to my passing out parade at the end of the year at junior leaders, and after that passing out parade, you had to go and do your training, and then that's you signed up your contract to go out to Germany, and then join up with the regiment. Just before I was 18, I went to Germany. So
you were just stationed there and just doing normal procedures.
At that time, it was at the end of the Cold War, so we had a threat from Russia at the time. And when I was actually there, the wall was still up, and it came down actually when I was out in Germany, and I managed to witness a lot of trabans, like suitcases and mattresses, coming over from East Germany to the West, because life in the East was shit. It was great. It was miserable. You had the Stasi on your back the whole time, and there was no joy there. And they saw the West as like, yeah, let's go, bright lights and party, So they did. But it's quite a shame because the West Germans, a lot of them had a bit of animosity because they were coming over and taking a lot of their jobs, and they saw them as a bit of a nuisance to their economy. Right. But Germany had to be reunited, so. Aye.
And then basically you got the call to go to fight in Iraq.
Well, it's funny because we were doing a site guard, doing salvo with the American soldiers, and salvo was like sort of the nuclear installations that we had to guard. So we're there with the Americans, in the canteen, and it comes up that Saddam Hussein's invaded Kuwait. And all these Americans are going, woohoo, here we go, yeah, we're going to war, yeah. And I'm fucking sitting there going, oh, no. That's thinking through. Oh, you're kidding. Oh, no, I'm going to fucking war.
I watched a documentary recently about the troubles in Northern Ireland, about the Scottish, very much Scottish soldiers in the troubles, And just one guy was like that. He signed up for the army, and the next thing you know, he's on a plane going to a war zone basically, and he's thinking to himself, "What the fuck have I done?"
To be honest, at that time when we got the orders and that, it was a little bit surreal for me. It was just, the whole world went, "Oh shit, I'm going off to war." You're brought up at school watching all the stuff that happened in the Second World War. You're getting brainwashed how bad war is, and then the next thing you know, you're getting carted off or sent ships off to like Saudi Arabia.
So is that where you were, Saudi Arabia? Did you go in Iraq? Well, what kind of action and stuff did you see? I mean, it was quite a one-sided war. As Bill Hicks says, it wasn't really a war. A war is when two sides are fighting.
I think by the end of the air sorties and whatever psychological damage had already done to them, the Iraqis were looking pretty lost when we captured them. They were like, I had an experience where we'd been driving for a day and a half and not much rest, and we've actually pushed really quickly to our position, far faster than they expected us to. So basically causing a tailbag for the rest of them to catch up. And so we were told there was an Iraqi brigade in front of us, and it was getting dark. It was pissing with rain. So the squadron, that's about 12 tanks, did like a sort of semicircle and switched their headlights onto an Iraqi position. I'm thinking, good, this is a great time for me to get some shut eye. So I closed my hatch and my driver's hatch, and next thing I know, I'm getting a rap on the hatch from my troop leader saying, "Look, we've caught a couple of Iraqis. Go down there with your machine gun and pick up the weapons that they've dropped." I'm thinking, all right, here we go. So I jumped in, just follow orders. Went down the track for about 100 metres, and the two Iraqis we'd already caught in the background started shouting something in Arabic. And from out of nowhere, these guys came out from the pissing wet rain darkness and the mud straight towards us, armed to the teeth. They had like AK-47s, grenades, and all sorts,
Know
pistols.
know what you want to see.
No, and it was, I'm get it, fucking dick, and they all like sort of like surrendered, oh, fucking hell, hands up in the air, and luckily for me, one of my friends came, he backed me up, and yeah, it was an interesting time, but it wasn't till I came back home did I start thinking, shit, man, that could have been Index, that could have been the end. So,
aye.
Aye.
And now these days you're wishing it was.
No, I'm enjoying the fight.
All right. Anyway, just a wee joke. So basically, you had some stress and whatnot with the army. Basically, did you realise it at the time that
I did. And like, by the time I got back, I was back in Germany, and obviously, being in the army, the way to deal with stress is excessive drinking. So that continued. It's like staying in a half bar and getting steaming and then falling into your bed. Totally can't remember. Sometimes waking up with black eyes and not understanding why you got them. So, that sort of thing's what I do. Where were we with Germany?
You came back and this must have been affecting you, but you were kind of burying it with the alcohol. And stuff.
I just tried to crack on, but I was starting to feel quite elated, quite hyper, so to speak. And my mood went quite high for a wee while with the excessive drinking and everything, and then it crashed. It went straight into like sort of what I'd see now as clinical depression while still serving. Now I was doing okay at driving at my job, and I was pretty much getting a couple of guys were headhunting me to be their driver because I was getting good reports back. But at that time, I was doing really well until I got to the Gulf and then came back and then just crashed. Still, when I was in depression, I was still trying to crack on,
Well, you didn't really, nobody was diagnosing you, so you thought it would be normal kind of thing, and just deal with it.
So I ended up falling out with the squadron sergeant major because I think I just, told him the truth, and he didn't quite like it and got bollocked to his office. And the next thing I know, I'm working in a sergeant's mess, working 18 hours a day.
All right.
Just whenever the last person went home, was when the bar shut, and sometimes that wasn't till like 6 a.m. I had to keep it open, and you just sat at the bar like that, serving sergeants all night. It was all right, but at that time it wasn't what I was needing,
Aye. So how long did you have left to serve at that point?
Well, I hadn't signed out the army at this point. I mean, I had to sign out a year, but I'm the sort of person that perseveres. So I got a call to go and see the sergeant major, and he said, "Listen, there's a position coming up at a place called ATDU, which was like the Trials and Development Unit down in the south of England." And he says, "Would you like to go and trial and develop a Challenger 2?" I'm thinking, yeah, anything to get away from here. A change will do me good. So I ended up with my emotions in a really dark place, going from Germany back to south of England and trying to work with Vickers engineers and top brass, working on this latest piece of technology that's going to serve the British Army. And you're going, you're still doing your job, but inside you've got negative thoughts bombarding you, saying, piece of shit, blah blah blah. Depression's like, I don't know if anyone's experienced it. It's like ruminations of horrible shit that's happened to you in your life, and why me sort of attitude hits you when you're depressed. So
and there's no way of
I was incapacitated. I should have been incapacitated. I tried to get some help. They sent me to Switzerland for 6 weeks to do downhill skiing, which then made my mood go high again. Right. So I went from depression. I fought it, whatever I had, put everything into the skiing trip. I was doing really well at the downhill skiing, giant slalom and stuff like that. But still, I was getting pissed as much as I could, just to escape the emotions, And I went from there, and I ended up signing off, and I had to wait for a year to get out. And I think a few soldiers didn't like, the fact that I'm pissing off away skiing and stuff.
Yeah, kind of
became resentful as much as possible, so they started giving me a hard time because I wasn't soldiering properly.
So that would come down to the problem.
Aye.
And you've seen psychologists and stuff like that as well in the army. Was that not They weren't much
Yeah,
help.
I did. They sent me to Aldershot a couple of times after I tried to. I'd asked my old sergeant major, used to be my staff sergeant for tech. He ended up becoming the sergeant major of my old squadron, C squadron, and I went to speak to this guy, and he took pity on me, and he says, like, we'll get you some help, and they sent us to Aldershot. But it was 20 minutes with a nurse or a doctor asking, how you doing? And you're going, I've no idea. How am I meant to be doing? And all right, seems fine to us, tick the boxes, see you later, and go back to soldiering on again, which...
So what age were you then? What age were you then when you kind of got out of the army? Because then you came back to Scotland after that.
What age was I? 21. But 22, 23.
All right, okay. So still not that old, still quite young lad.
Aye.
And then you came back to Dunblane area.
That's right. I went back to Dunblane. I lived in Bournemouth for a bit. I don't know, 5 months. A girl I met down there, and that crumbled really quickly. And I ended up coming back up to Dunblane and sharing a flat with my brother for a while.
Aye.
He had there, so aye.
And so what was Dunblane like? What kind of you kind of had a breakdown at some point?
Well, I was trying to do 3 jobs. I thought the harder I worked, you don't get anything in this life if you don't, put your finger out and get some work done. So at one point I was a gardener, right? I was working in a bar and I was doing a job at Royal Mail. And,
so you're pretty exhausted.
I burnt myself out. I didn't know how to slow down. I just, if you can imagine the pace in the army is at triple time and everything you did at triple time. And when you come back out of that and try and fit into sort of a slower paced society, it's really difficult for it's like a square peg round hole. I can't fucking fit into this, So
you kind of thought you were like a mix between Jim Morrison and William Wallace.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. When you actually try really, really hard and you become really, really elated from fighting depression and you become manic, you'll have delusions of grandeur and ideas that are not fitting into everybody else's paradigm. So, you can go off on a tangent. I mean, there was points where I was walking down the road thinking I had a force field around me and I couldn't get wet.
All right.
Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
What's going on? And I went up to Skye at one point. I took a trip up to Skye and I thought I'd met the devil on a hill with this fucking sheep that had big red eyes. I'm going, what the fuck's going on? This sort of shit, everything turned into I think Soundgarden describes it quite well. The songs, Hold On to the Super Unknown. It got a bit fucking wild for a while.
Aye. So obviously this couldn't continue, this kind of manic lifestyle, and basically you had to...
Do you know what I was doing was I was so pissed off with everybody fighting that I was trying really hard. I thought in my own head at that time, I'll bring as much love and light into the world as possible through poetry. So I had an obsession with just fucking writing all the time. Just writing. When you see somebody that's been locked up in a cell who's mad and they've written all over the walls, well, that was like me in books, writing, scribbling. And but yeah, they knocked me out for 3 days. I went to I actually had a breakdown and I ended up finding me crawled up in a little ball inside my brother's flat, fucking sent out for the ambulance, and it came and carried me off to the hospital. And at that time, I was delusional, thinking I'd started a war between Scotland and England for some reason. It was dialogue going on in my head. But they took me into the hospital, gave me an injection, knocked me out for 3 days, and then put me on a course of drugs that pharmaceuticalist likes to sell you.
Yeah, which basically a lot of people say don't do much good at all, really, and actually...
I've got to add, at this point in time, I was down to about 8 stone in weight, and I was looking like a refugee from wherever. Looking like a prisoner of war from Japan. That's how skinny I was. Skin and bone. And
you then started sharing a room with somebody who was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
That's right, he was, putting somebody in the hospital who's got trauma-based illness and that's having sort of manic episodes. It doesn't work if you put them in with somebody who's telling you stories about the devil and shit and making you think the devil's telling me stuff and you go, I don't want to fucking know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Anyway, we were sharing this room. I had one of these most terrifying experiences I've ever had. And it was, I think I woke up in the middle of the night and I got up, right? And I'd gone across to the curtains in the fucking room. And I'd opened them up. And there's this fucking horrible demonic face staring at me. With blood spewing out, hitting against the screen.
Aye.
The window pane. Oh, fuck. And I shook myself, and again, I woke up again. It was just like a dream.
All right.
But I woke up absolutely, sweating, petrified, and what the fuck was that? It was quite an experience.
So basically, that was all kicking off, and then you were still living in Dunblane, and you were there when the Thomas Hamilton thing.
Yeah, well, what happened was I'd come out of the hospital. I'd managed to get myself a flat for myself just around the corner from where my brother stayed. And yeah, I remember my sister coming round to the house saying, I was asleep, 10:30 in the morning, I think it was. My sister knocking on the door. What's happened? What are you talking about? There's been a shooting up in Dunblane Primary. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Now, this is only like 200 metres from where I am, where I'm living, right? And it's the school I went to as a child when I came over from Islay to Dunblane. And I'd actually been in Thomas Hamilton's group as a child. I was in his Rovers Club.
All right.
Out in Loch Lomond on his boat.
Right.
Rifle clubs, gymnastics running about half naked in gymnasiums.
Right.
When you're that age and that, you don't really think this guy's a fucking perv, eh? He was giving us like Mars bars and have a sweetie, young man. He was doing all that, and obviously I didn't have much like sort of going on back home, so I thought, I'll throw myself into this club, but no.
So it must have been quite a surprise to you then when you seen him on TV.
Was that, sorry?
It must have been a bit of a shock then when you seen him.
Yeah, well, when I found out who it was like, but yeah, it's a subject I'd like to talk about, but it's quite difficult to talk about because there's so much to it. I mean, I could sit here all night and talk about Dunblane and the tragedy and what this guy did, or was it him? Who knows?
Yeah, well, he's friends with Jimmy Savile and stuff like that. But Neil Sanders, I was interviewing him a few nights ago, and he said that basically a lot of the kids there were actually coming out and speaking out about sexual things done to them. So that's kind of why it happened, to kind of shut them up.
I think there's a lot going on up at the Queen Victoria School. It was in the Independent newspaper. There was an article about some sort of shit going on up there. So I don't think I think these institutions were compromised by predators.
Aye. Which are quite prevalent in society, really, these days.
Well, it's coming to the surface. It's all rising up, isn't it?
Aye.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of it's connected.
Oh, aye. It's a big network, really.
Yeah, it's a global network.
So,
trafficking exists,
So basically, how did you begin then to pull yourself out of this? You went to Falkirk College and you decided to improve yourself, or how did you drag yourself?
What a laugh Falkirk was. I ended up teaming up with like a whole class guys. There was no females in our class, and really, these are all sports jocks, rugby players, and guys that could do karate and all sorts, a ragtag of guys all about the same age, between about the age of...
What was the class?
Leisure management.
All right.
Well, it was actually sports and recreation NC, and then went on to do an HND in leisure management. But I was quite wild. And
so were you working at that time, or was it full time at the college?
I took full time and took a loan. I incorporated, because I was into skiing. I saw some guys snowboarding when I was out in Switzerland, and I went, that looks interesting. It was like a new sport, and I'm going, I want to try that. And I said to myself, I'm going to become an instructor. So I did. I went to college and incorporated leisure management and with snowboarding. I went to Canada with the student loan. I went to Italy a couple of times. And really
so how did your dyslexia, how did you manage to get through a course then with that? Was it diagnosed at that point? Or?
Well, this is when I got diagnosed. When I was doing my NC, I went and spoke to the guidance, and I said, look, I'm having real difficulties doing comprehension, putting essays together. They tell you the structure and everything, but I was still struggling between one sentence and the next. I think trauma at that point. I didn't know I had PTSD at this point. I thought it was just mad.
Yeah. So that was different. PTSD is different from the depression and stuff. It was like.
Well, it's all part of it. I mean, you know, when you've had enough of the depression, and it can lead you to some really, really dark places. Just in your head, you know, you're just.
So it's just different labels for basically madness going on inside of you.
Aye, being bombarded.
It's caused by being in the war and stuff.
Well, when I went to college and I was like, you know, I had camaraderie amongst these new guys that I'd met up with. We just run riot in the college. It was, we weren't bad anyway. It was just like kind of untouchable. So attitude. So we noise folk up quite a lot. Yeah.
So then you got the degree. What happened when you the HND? What happened when you came out of there then?
Well, I went home for a while and tried working in a bar for a weekend, and I wasn't enjoying that. It was kind of in a posh area, and I was doing my nutting. And then I went to like a place called Corpach up in Fort William.
Okay.
And it was a leisure activity centre for tourists. And what they do, they show up with a haggis bus and drop all these tourists off. And as soon as they're in there, we're like, have a drink, you know, Guinness tap, there you go. Started partying, from we should give them like sort of the weapons displays with swords and kilts and everything like that, and quiz nights, and you know. And then from that base, we could take them horse riding, we could take them snowboarding, whitewater rafting, trekking, whatever. We had a minibus, so they just pile in a minibus, and I'd take them to their destination and drop them off, and then go back and pick them up later on. So that was quite a good job. And I met a few folk there. They'd invited us out to Australia. So,
I was going to say you went to Australia for a year, eh?
Well, I never made the year.
All right.
I was taking these SSRIs, like tablets, venlafaxine, I don't know if it's RDIs or whatever they're called. I was taking these venlafaxine, and I'm thinking to myself, I need a new start at life. I need to, like, you know, just go over everything and go to Australia and start afresh, because nothing's working for me here. So I stopped my tablets at that time, venlafaxine.
All right.
And went to Australia, and then from there I just crashed into another deep, deep depression. And luckily for me, I was with people who were really cool. I mean, I went and did a snowboarding course there, even though I was suffering from depression. I just, you know, the army mentality, just get it done. And thankfully for me at the time, I was thinking people are going to come and kill me and stuff, you know, paranoia. What's going on? And it was terrifying, really, really terrifying to be alone in a different country so far from home and experiencing that sort of darkness inside you. But luckily for me, I was with good people around about me. They managed to help me get a flight back home. Obviously, I came back to Dunblane, and I was homeless for a while, you know, couch surfing. Until I had a friend who said his mother had just died. He had this big 5-bedroom house in Dunblane. He says, "You want a room?" I says, "Aye." He says, "Right, there you go."
All right.
And gave me for a year a rent-free room.
That was quite fortunate.
Aye. Looked out for us. I'm thankful for him.
Aye. So did you manage to come off? Obviously, you came off the antidepressants and whatnot. I mean, how did you begin the healing side of this then? How did it kind of transfer from?
Well, you know, I'm still taking. You know, everybody's got their own cross to bear. I've still got to take medication.
Right.
The only reason I take the medication, I've tried many times to come off it, is because I'm addicted to it.
All right.
And when I come off it, I become clinically depressed. I become suicidal.
Right.
You're trying to figure out whether is this a PTSD or is this the tablets? You know, I think it was maybe a bit of both going on there. So I've found myself going a healthy addiction to venlafaxine.
Right. So it's not like a physical addiction then, like heroin or whatever. It's more of a physical pain. It's more just.
Well, no, yeah. I tell you, try coming off these things after being on for a while. You will get what's known as brain zaps. That's what they're called. You can look this up. Where it's almost like it's like an electric shock to your brain. As it goes, bzzz, and you're like, shit, where did that come from? Oh, I'm not taking my tablets. You go to your tablet.
All right, it'll be a reminder.
So, but if you get caught short and you're away and you forgot your tablets, you've got to put up with this for like, it's kind of like nauseating feeling when you get this zap. You go,
all right.
Oh, it feels very loud. You know,
Pretty
and that's the side effects Oh, it's extremely. I mean, they say they're not addictive. My arse, they're highly addictive.
Well,
I
again,
think they're probably more highly addictive than smack, to be honest.
well, they say they're side effects, you know, but they're actually the effects, you know.
Yeah, well, that's I hate the term side effects. It's actually the effects. I'll just tell you about this. No, leave the fucking effects, right? Using it with your doctor.
Yeah. So then, what about your art and stuff like that? I mean, did you get back on track?
Well,
Because
from
PTSD, did you got funding from the army now, basically? Yeah, because did you have to prove the army caused this kind of thing?
Well, thankfully, I had a good friend from the Raploch in Stirling. He's like a sort of community worker working with people who had were having problems in life, whether it was a disability or financial, whatever. He was this sort of dude to. I'll actually say he's called Stevie Penman. He's a really nice guy, and he says, "Listen, son," he says, "listen, I'll take you along to a tribunal, and we'll fight against like the British Army." And that. What? He says, "Just go along," and I went, "Aye, right." He says, "I'd been given like 20%, which is like next to nothing," and he says, "Like, so me and him took a train trip to Edinburgh, and we went to like one of the headquarters there, sat down in front of all these brass and like doctors and that, and there's a guy there who's meant to be supporting me, not my mate Stevie, but another guy, and I'm asking questions that I shouldn't be asking them. Fucking, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did this? And this guy's going, "Calm down, mate, calm down. Don't you dare tell me to calm down." That sort of thing. This is to find out if I had PTSD, right? So, like, "Can you leave the room?" And I went back in again. This is "Okay, we believe your story. We're going to give you like an increase." So they increased it from 20 to 50%, which is actually you can actually live off that. It's not brilliant. It's enough to tide you over.
Well, basically, if this shit has happened because of the circumstances you were put in, then I'm sure you would rather be free of it and
absolutely,
and not have the money.
I could have, there's so many things I could have done differently, but you look back, it wouldn't make me the person I am today. So yeah, I got really into healing in that at the same time. As I bumped into this lady in Dunblane and one of my friend's mums, and she was a Reiki practitioner and she did shiatsu and yoga and stuff like that.
This would be just after you crushed the pint glass in your hand.
Well, no, that was later.
All right, okay.
That was later. That was that was about 10 years ago, 2011, 2010.
Right. So anyway, you started Reiki a bit before then?
Yeah, she attuned me to level 1 Reiki, just before I went off to Australia.
And what would you explain that Reiki is? What's your understanding of that, and how did it benefit you?
Reiki, I'll give you the Reiki principles. It was like, just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I'll be kind to my neighbour and every living thing. So if you take those principles on, your life will change.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's just, I could be like sort of, some people turn to Psalms and things like that. I turn to the Dai Chi Ching as well,
Okay. And again, what is that, Tai Ching? What would you describe that as?
I'd say the most prolific book that was ever written. It teaches about duality in the world and how not only to lead yourself in the world, but how to lead others without actually enforcing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, a lot of people
by giving up everything, you get everything.
Yeah. Well, I think, basically, a lot of people are out there and they want to tell people how to live their lives. But I think the best way to basically inspire people is to set a good example, And,
for sure.
And then people can follow your actions and not necessarily the dictates, Like, for instance, these politicians that are ordering us around, we wouldn't necessarily want to aspire to be them, So they're not exactly a good leader,
Well, if you listen to them, that's you actually giving your power over to them.
Yeah.
You don't. If
a good teacher teaches you to be yourself.
Aye. Find your own path.
Aye.
No path is right or wrong. It's just a path. But you can actually navigate through the bullshit with the Tao.
So you're still quite actively engaged with these things, the Reiki and the Tao.
Oh yeah,
Is this
yeah.
the two main things?
I teach myself Reiki quite a lot. I've got a dog that's got a pin in her leg. I use it on the dog. My wife, she can get migraines, and I take her migraines away. At this moment in time, I'm doing my Reiki Masters. I've done my level 2. Actually, I'll tell you a story. I was down when I got in a bit of bother when I smashed a glass in my hand, smashed a bar up, right? I'd fallen out with some locals who were trying to bully me, right? So I ended up going, right, I got locked up for the night, woke up in a cell at 3 a.m, what am I in for? Breach of the peace. They let me out. And I went down to England and looked for help with PTSD. And I swear I put the Tao Teaching book, and I had a van at this time, and a mattress, and a dog, and a mountain bike, and a longboard skateboard, and I headed down south. I didn't know where I was going. I just said to the Tao, guide me. Now, within 3 days, right, I'd met up with these guys from Supporting a Brave who had a shop in the middle of Blackpool, because that's where I don't know why I headed for Blackpool, but I headed there, right? I was looking at East Anglia and like sort of Cornwall and stuff like that, But I looked at the map, right down to Blackpool, and I met up with these guys from Supporting a Brave, and they said, right, we know these guys down in Manchester who are dealing with PTSD, and we think you've got post-traumatic stress disorder. I knew at that point I had it. I just didn't know what to do with it, how to deal with it. So I hooked up with these guys who were really good with us, and they were ex-special forces, I met some Navy SEALs there and they were learning esoteric practices like Reiki. They were learning meditation, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. They were doing art therapy. They would get you to draw the worst nightmare of your life on a bit of paper and then get another bit of paper on the top of it and saying, how do you want to see the future? And all that sort of stuff. So they were doing a lot of projection into the future for you and grounding you in certain moments and teaching you how to just relax and be yourself, for the first time in your life, And you're going,
well, there's this ego mind that's basically taking over you, basically it's chattering away all the time and stuff like that. And you can't escape it. So that's been ways for you to kind of quieten that down a bit.
Yeah, well, so what they did was teach me how to like chill the fuck out, right? So they were like they were really good that way. They was kind of running a kind of military operation, obviously, but there was a compassionate side that I'd never seen before, and they were like saying, they've opened arms to me, they're giving me hugs and things. They're telling us things about their experiences, and I'm going, geez, I've met up with people who are just like-minded to me. I've gone through the same as me, and I met guys who were doing mercy killings at one point. That's what I'm going to say in the matter. Well, in the Middle East, mercy killings for people that had been shot with A10 warthogs. So meeting these guys was like a brotherhood that I'd lost. yeah. So they helped me get over. They did a lot of like meditation with me. They trained me up to be like a paradigm therapist and so I could teach other soldiers how to relax or other people how to relax.
That's a good way actually to heal as well, is actually to think of other people as well and help them.
You learn that best what you teach.
That's right, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I got into that. I mean, I was already into it, sort of thing, with the Reiki, and it was like all becoming apparent. Now, when I was down and talking to, the Supporting a Brave, I was sitting in their shop, right? And this woman came in the shop. I'm looking for somebody who needs my help. And all the guys in the shop are going. I went, how you doing? I started talking to her, right? She went, yeah. I got a message from the spirit world to come here and help somebody. And I'm thinking, I says, what do you do? She says, I'm a Reiki practitioner and a spiritual healer. I'm going, that could be me because I do Reiki. So she took me and this other soldier away and she taught us level 2 Reiki for free
at
that point. So this just kept coming. These sort of things started happening to me, like coincidences that shouldn't have happened. It was almost like everything had been thrown up in the air, a bit like Tetris. It all started coming down with the blocks fitting.
If
that makes any sense.
Well, basically, again, if you follow the Tao as well, you're not got a plan, and sometimes that
it's sanctuary. It's a total sanctuary for the mind. If you're ever feeling out of kilter or you're worried about something, stick it on in the background and just listen to it. You don't have to focus on it. Just replay it in the background when you're doing stuff in the house and listen. You'll absorb it, and when you do, things start becoming a bit more synchronized within your life, and things start happening that you never expected to happen so quickly. So yeah, it was quite a. It's almost like these breakdowns that I was having was taking me to a place where, right, this is how you've got to do it,
And then something quite mad happened in your life just around about this time. You seen a picture of a beautiful woman in uniform. Was this?
She's in the background, funny looks. Yeah. I got married to.
But that again was like what I'm trying to say is that was like a kind of intuition as well.
Oh well, during that time, we shouldn't have got married. I mean, the way things happened, we shouldn't have got married. We had to jump through a million hoops to get married. We had, persuade a lot of different people, including like mayors of towns and stuff, to try and get marriage certificates pushed through. We had to go to the British consulate in Manila, and luckily for us, we couldn't get an appointment, and we were meant to get married in 10 days. And luckily for my wife, she knew a guy on the gate who was in the SAF, because she's like special forces there. He says, "I'll get your appointment tomorrow." Just these things, funny things, just worked for us and leading up to getting married. And we got married.
But just to let people know, basically, you didn't meet her, you didn't know her, and you just saw a picture of her, and then you kind of had the intuition to contact her. Very strong intuition.
Yeah, totally. Somebody added to her. A friend of mine had added her to the Scots TG's webpage in my regiment, and I saw a picture of her, and oh, hello, how you doing? So it is. And I was struggling at that time as well, and I think my wife had a couple of bad experiences in her life at that time, and she wasn't in a good place either. And together we kind of brought each other out. And
so you communicated for about 6 months,
Aye, and then I went out to meet her, and we toured around the north of the Philippines, and I went back out again and married her 4 months later.
So it's kind of not so much a whirlwind because you were communicating quite a lot, but you hadn't spent that much time actually together, but it felt right, basically.
Yeah, totally. And how many years have we been married now? 5, 6. 6 years married now. So.
And you still seem very happy together. Yep.
Oh, totally. Yeah. We support each other in different areas. She's better, like sort of the academic side of things.
And what made you? I mean, you could have lived there. What made you come here?
To Scotland. Well, one thing is the medication I'm on.
Right.
You can't get the free medication out there.
Right.
Whereas another thing was the economic situation, so to speak.
Right.
I mean, we are still planning on going back out there, but we've got a few ideas. And one of them, actually, I'm going to give you, because I don't think anybody will steal it off us, is they're opening up a Scottish fish and chip shop in the north of the Philippines.
All right.
Because my wife's family live right next to a fish market.
All right, okay. So you just have to batter them up and then get some pizzas and chuck them in a deep fat fryer.
It's almost like like sushi to them,
Aye. So that's the kind of your life story. Just we'll round up a wee bit now, but I'd like to talk about your art, and your poetry and stuff like that. How does the creative side of things? How did you get into that? And
I've always been like I said, through the army, and I was still doing like cartoons, and I did some cartoons on the 3 tanks that we were on out in the Middle East, and it was Mother, Father, and Biffa from Viz, and I'd drawn them on the side of the tanks, each base.
Right.
So we'd actually named the tanks after the Viz characters.
Right.
And from there, I started doing artworks, helping charity shops. I was painting the windows, like the murals and things. I started getting into. I went to college in Glasgow to the Metropolitan for a year and did a lot of different activities like bookbinding and things like that, and learning how to use craft materials. So from there, I started the concept, which I've now called Illuminart, which is where I use holographic card and use it in a way that it reflects light when you look at it, and you'll never see the same picture twice. It's always changing when you walk past it. It's almost like it glows from the canvas, so to speak.
Right. That's quite
I
interesting.
mean, they're interesting to see as a picture online, but you don't actually get to see the full, what do you call it, splendor of the actual piece of art until you see it in person.
Aye.
It's got a 3D element to it. So
right. So you do actually have a webpage that I'm showing down the bottom stream there. So you've got quite a big collection of art. It's all kicking around your house.
Yeah, I mean, geez, at one point I destroyed a lot of my art in a total tantrum. Aye. I'm talking about hours and hours of work, just like stick it in the bin. That's another story. Like,
was that just in one of your low moments, basically?
Well, I've had enough of this shit.
Aye.
I'm going to take it out of my art. Some of it was really good as well, so I'm quite sad now to look back. I've got pictures of it also.
Here's one called The Lizard King. I believe you've got stories to them.
Well, that was from college. I got into looking into the artist. What was his name again? Luc Basquel. What was it? Basquesque? The graffiti artist from New York. I studied him, and the Lizard King was
Jim Morrison's nickname.
Jim Morrison. It's got a wee GM if you see next to it. But if you look into the conspiracy side of things, we're all told by Ike and there's lizards out there that are eating folk, and I like to take the piss in a wee bit of that sort of way because I believe Jim Morrison's dad was a naval officer.
That's right. He was in the Gulf of Tonkin ship.
Aye, and Janis Joplin's dad, all these sort of really famous 60s sort of groupies had really military fucking backgrounds.
That's true, yeah. There's a book by Dave McGowan. It's called Weird Seeds from the Canyon. And basically, he was the first one to really expose the fact that there's lots of the rock stars in Laurel Canyon all had high-level military personnel parents, like Jackson Browne, Stephen Stills, Neil Young, Emmylou Harris, and, etc., etc.
Sad, actually. Or was it because when they saw what their parents did, they wanted to rebel against it?
Some people think that. I'm of the opinion, well, they got record contracts very easily. I think it was basically. I think the whole hippie thing was a creation, And if you're talking about lizards, I'm going to show a picture now. I showed this during the Stephen Magner's talk, the recent one I had with him.
Sure.
This is a real picture because this creature in some island, Guatemala, I think it is. It came out, and the guy who's holding this head, I'm going to show you, this creature ate his daughter, and they set up a tripwire for it, and basically, check this out. Hold on. Can you see that?
I can't see it personally, but
well,
send it to me, man. I'll check it out later.
I'm not too keen on sharing it around the internet, but basically, you can check out the video. That is actually a real creature. It's not like, how we're kind of desensitized from a lot of things with the alien movies and stuff. But that is real. I mean, when you get your head around that, there is kind of mad creatures going around that we would say aren't human.
Just look at the Getty Museum.
Aye.
What's down there?
Yeah, definitely. There's these things.
Layers of Nazi psychics.
When David Icke talked about it, he I think he was going to shapeshifting, which made it outlandish to a lot of people. I don't know much of it's like an actual physical shapeshift. I think some of them've got like a reptilian overlord kind of, they kind of pure reptilian, Or
he went out to see the chieftains of the Chitahuri in Africa.
That's right. It was Credo Mutwa.
That's the guy.
And he called the reptilians the Chitahuri. And basically, that's in their ancient lore,
We've all got we're all reptiles in a way because we've all got the reptilian brain.
Yeah,
it's part of the three limbic sort of systems, isn't it?
Well, I think that's what they're using against us right now. The kind of fight.
It's a play or fight.
Aye, so they get us in a fear-based kind of position whereby we can't logically think. That's what's happening with people right now. They can't believe what's going on, so they're just wearing the mask and they're just going around following orders, basically, because they can't actually sit and comprehend
it's called
the bigger picture.
It's called the ostrich effect.
That's a good one. There's a picture. Can you see this one? I've just put up a picture there with the big horns, a big red head.
Oh, the posterity. Yeah.
Aye. So what's that one came from?
That's from have you heard of Buddha's sort of enemy Myra?
Oh right, aye, yeah. Myra.
That's what idea came from it. So anything. So if you look at post-traumatic stress, right, it's got all the elements of negativity you could think of, from like jealousy to hatred, anger, revenge, all the negative traits on the circle of life, as they call it. You've got the good side and then you've got the bad side. So PTSD encompasses all that Myra ever was, which was your ego.
Right.
And you're looking into that, you're actually looking into a part of yourself.
Right.
Because we've all got that within us. It's a part, I don't know where it came from, I don't know why. There is an element of bad in everybody, but there's also an element of good. And it's whatever you nurture the most will come prevalent in your life.
Yeah, there's some kind of thing about the wolf, isn't there? There's some.
Yeah,
you're talking about. It's an analogy about a wolf and something like that. What
you feed the most, you become.
That's right. Aye. So anyway, it's important. I mean, you've done a great job being where you are now from what you've come through, And
well, it was almost like overnight it happened. It was kind of strange. It was going through all this crazy madness through your whole life, and all of a sudden things were starting to work for you instead of work against you.
Aye.
Like, for instance, I took my car to Oban once, right? This is just after I met Juliet. And I lost my car keys when I was in Oban, and my spare set was back here in Bridge of Allen. So I had to get like the train all the way from Oban down to Glasgow, which took 4 hours, then a train from Glasgow up to Bridge of Allen, which was another hour. Get the keys, get the train all the way back, get the car. So all the way back, right? I'm driving through like all the way home going, yeah, got the car back, another 8 miles, And just 2 miles before I got home, a deer came out in front of my car and totally wrote my car off.
All right.
And I'm like, what am I doing wrong here? What's the message here?
Aye.
And I'd had a bit of a few days before a PTSD anger episode, so to speak. It's usually an inanimate object, like a washing basket gets kicked,
Aye.
But I always see that if it ever did happen, I always got something karmic would come back to me.
Right.
I started learning the patterns of cause and effect, and it was when you started doing the down stuff, it almost becomes instant.
Well, I do think that's an interesting thing what you've done there. Basically, a lot of times things happen in our life and we blame other things, but you've looked for the reason why these things are happening.
Yeah.
And that's, again, a self-reflection thing, but maybe your meditation and stuff like that has made you kind of be more effective, and then you can create a new reality. You have to change inwardly to create a different outer reality. Yeah.
And the old reality I had was pretty much party till you drop. That's the way I was taught. Just keep going. You'd be the last person out, Okay, just keep going. It was just a mindset that I was in that I didn't realise I was in. And it was leading to places that kept on crashing. And once you've been slapped quite a few times with these crashes, you say, what's going on here? What am I doing? And you start questioning your behaviour, you start questioning what's important in your life. And
So looking to the future now, I mean, just to kind of, I don't know, what do you think? Let's give your opinions in the world in general now. What's your thoughts about, what's going on? What do you think is unfolding? And, I get my opinions on here every night. So what's your take on all this madness?
Have you ever heard of the slit screen experiment, where they're firing particles individually against the screen? And they only act like in a certain way if you actually observed it.
That's right.
I kind of like to me that Ike goes on about everything being made of particles, and you're sitting in a seat that's actually vibrating, is actually liquid in its form. But actually, because you've got your 5 senses, it's actually acting in a different way.
This book of
consciousness
talks about this, the nature of reality. Actually, Don and David's book, they wrote the one about the virus, they start by talking about that, how everything's not actually solid, Well,
what's happening with this is almost like there's been obviously a release of information right across the world just now, and people are becoming aware of dark things under rocks, so to speak. And there's a lot of beasties there. And when you shine a light in the beasties, they scatter, right? So what's going on just now is we're actually learning a lot about our dark shadows within ourselves, because we're all connected. I'm convinced of that. It's all, we're all in some way cyclically linked. So what to do? What my advice is to start. It's okay to look at dark stuff, but don't look at it all the time. Actually, look at yourself and look inward. Because if you start looking at the dark shit all the time, you're going to actually overload yourself. You're going to I can't handle this anymore. This is too much. So you need to find the balance, and the balance is whatever floats your boat. Go and do a run, meditate, bit of art, walk the dog, whatever. Your world's your oyster. But do something that makes you feel good. And if that's just sitting in nature, and so be it, just go and sit out in the woods.
Well, I've actually started to do that.
Yourself with nature again,
With Emma, I've got the shoreline here, and it's easy to get dark in this, and I'm trying to figure out lots of stuff and, piece together what's going on and make sense of it all and, what's going on. But it's important. We just go for a walk for about an hour every night, and that's just amazing what it does, that wee bit of nature,
Well, I believe you can get a wee bit overlogged with it, and it can
totally
static, bog you down a wee bit. 100%. So you need to release that.
Yeah.
You need to release that. I do it for tons of techniques, one of them being red wine, which is actually my downfall.
Right.
But in the past, I'd probably been able to drink 2-3 bottles of wine easy. So I don't do that sort of thing anymore.
Aye.
I just have the odd bottle now and again.
So that's basically your advice. Don't go down too deep down the rabbit hole. Try and work on yourself as well, because you've obviously learned that's a very important.
Right. If we go back to consciousness and creating your future, if everybody has the same sort of mindset and ideology of creating a better world, and you're to do a mass meditation, they've actually proven that
that's true.
Through mass meditations, you can reduce crime rates in cities.
Aye.
So with this COVID thing, I mean, it's all just a control mechanism, isn't it? They're just trying to put some boxes, keep us separated, and if we listen to it and do what they're told, they win. Or if we just say, right, I'm a spiritual being, I don't consent. You can't do that to me. That's against humanity. That's against my personal universal rights, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's about, again, taking control of yourself and your mind and your actions and looking towards a better world more hopefully, and, trying to inspire others to follow your path. And you can do it with art and whatever.
You just question, I was going to say, a lot of darkness can be like training,
Aye.
If you've been through a lot of shit, just see it as your training for becoming awakened, so to speak. I hate the term, people waking up and all the rest of it spiritually. But it's there. Like, it does work. I've seen it myself, and I know it sounds a bit wanky in that, but it's true. Yeah,
so just as we're about to wrap up, then do you fancy bringing Juliet on and showing her on camera? She want to say hi?
Can we say hi, Juliet?
Let her say hi. Let people get an idea. Hello, Juliet. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. And do you write poetry and do any art yourself?
Yeah, I've just.
Joan, read your poem you got today, right? She just wrote a poem today. I think you'll quite like it.
Okay.
That's just quick, right?
Okay.
Then we'll let you go.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure she's on camera.
Make sure you're on camera.
Then the title is A Tale of an Ostrich.
Okay.
Apocalypse is certainly now happening as you look around and see the blackening. Normality expelled by them, and it's saddening. The fear that they generate is maddening. They try to diffuse the agitation in our head. Social media is their medium to spread. But have you tried to research and read, or you just ignore and believe them instead? Be like a lion rather than an ostrich. Face the reality and don't be like a bitch. Luciferianism, they're trying to cross-stitch. Proximity of one another they want to ditch. Living in fear is like feeding the devil. Your faith from God is now in peril. Mainstream media isn't real but drivel. So flourish your perception and not shrivel.
Very good. Well done. Excellent stuff.
Right. Well, there you go, Billy. Thanks very much for having us on. It's been great.
It was a pleasure, and people are enjoying seeing your face, and it's good to connect. If anyone else out there wants to come on and introduce yourself, you're more than welcome.
I'm sure I'll come back on sometime in the future.
Yep, we'll sort it out. So
sweet.
Basically, that's all that's left for me to say. Good night, Barry, and thanks to
Good
everyone.
night from me, and it's good night from him.
Good night from him. Take care. Cheers now.
Bye.
Bye. And with that, folks, we'll wrap up. Thanks all for tuning in. Tomorrow night, I'm in Perth. I'm doing a spoken word event in front of an art gallery or something run by Rana Marathon. And so I might come on a bit earlier. I might do one about 3 o'clock tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. But you can catch up with it later if you don't make it live. And other than that, I'll be back on Saturday. In the meantime, I'm Oski, and cheers to now. Bye-bye.